Hello, hello, hello. It's your girl Kathleen, aka Castodine, aka Sodine, and welcome to another episode of Sodine's Soapbox. Yes. Here on Sodine's Soapbox is where we rant about all things love, life, and the pursuit of music. Get into it. Okay, so we are now on episode 9. And I do have to let you guys know, this is actually the second to last episode of this season. Yes. So I've actually been thinking about how I wanted to set up this podcast. I think what I'm going to do is one, set these up in seasons, and two, each season is going to be roughly between 8 to 10 episodes. I don't know. It's my choice, obviously, but I'm thinking that's probably going to be a good spot. So we're on episode 9. Episode 10 will be the last episode in this season. And then I'm going to take a short break. I realize I've been going hard for the past 4 months because this podcast debuted on February 4th. And we are now getting ready. By the time this episode rolls out, it'll be June. So yeah, I've been plowing through for a good 4 months. That's surprising for me because this was, again, as I've said in previous episodes, this was a huge leap of faith for me. So the fact that I've been going strong for 4 months consecutively and producing 2 episodes a month, I'm really, really proud of myself. So yes, this is going to be the second to last episode. So there'll be one more episode and then I'm going to take a short break. So don't worry. There'll be, like I said, one more episode. I will announce it on my social medias and things like that. But just so you know, you heard it first. There is a break. So I don't want you guys thinking like, oh my God, why is there all of a sudden no more episodes? I'm taking a short break. Okay. So we recently ended our series of Living My Life Like I'm Haitian, and that was an amazing series. So we're actually going to be jumping into the long-awaited, I've kind of hinted around it a few times, like talking about friendships and trying to make friends in Korea and trying to find my tribe and what that's like, especially as a foreigner living in a country like Korea where I don't speak the language. And for me, especially living outside of the main cities, what that kind of looks like for me. So I'm actually going to take today's episode and the next episode just to kind of talk about not just the journey in me trying to make friends in Korea, but I kind of want to talk about friends in general and friendship and kind of title this Friends, the Other Soulmate. I think we put so much emphasis on finding our soulmate in terms of our husbands and wives, but I think we sometimes neglect the fact that you can find your soulmate in friends as well. I kind of want to talk about that in the next 2 episodes. So this will be a 2-part series. And like I said, then we'll be wrapping this series and I will be taking a short break. But before we get into the meat and bones of this episode, of course, I want to start off by thanking everyone for listening to these past episodes, of course, and showing your love and support. It's always appreciated. It doesn't go unnoticed. I'm completely grateful and thankful. Every comment, every tweet, every mention of my podcast, truly, 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 I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I'm humbled. And I mean that legitimately. A friend of mine wrote a blog post this week and she mentioned that my podcast inspired her, and that brought me to tears because although I go in with the mentality that I do want my podcast to make an impact on whoever listens to it, it's completely different to find out that that's exactly what it does. So that is completely humbling to me, and I'm forever grateful and thankful. even if it's just one person who has a connection to my podcast, who feels connected to something that I said or anything that I say impacts them in some way, that lets me know that I'm walking in my purpose and I'm walking in what I feel like God is calling me to do. Again, as I've said before, I'm a Christian, so I'm going to come from that perspective. So hearing someone say that I inspired them or I motivated them or I gave them the courage to do something that they didn't have the courage to do before, that lets me know that I'm walking in my purpose. That just gives me such joy. I, again, appreciate the love and support. Now, in our segment of Sorin's life, which is basically me giving an update on what's been going on with me, honestly, nothing. If I'm completely honest, which isn't a bad thing. You know, sometimes it's good for there to be moments of like getting lit, we outside, hot girl summer, which I am still intending on having. But sometimes moments of rest are just equally as important and necessary. So these past 2 weeks I've kind of just been taking a rest and relaxing. Next week, I'm actually supposed to be going to Busan. I am excited for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to taking a trip. And then after that, I'm supposed to be going to a series of concerts. I'm really excited for that. Honestly, I feel like June about to take all my money because there's so many festivals, there's so many concerts. As I've said before, Korea's basically opened back up and everything's pretty much in full effect. So I feel like I'm about to literally run around with a chicken without a head because I want to go to this festival and this concert and this event and here and here and here. And obviously, I'm going to have to really learn how to pace myself and learn how to decline and just say, you know what, I'll go to that the next go round, or I'll attend that event when it comes back around. I think for me, I'm just kind of getting caught up in the excitement of the fact that we're outside, that I want to just jump on every single event. And I think that just because COVID, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I got to do everything because I don't want the world to shut down and I can't do it again. And it's just like, no, like May said, breathe, shake, let it go. Like, it's okay. So that's kind of like the take that I'm on right now, essentially. So basically, in this segment of Sorin's life, we chilling right now. And that's okay, because like I said, I plan to do a bunch of different trips in the month of June, which is good for me. That means like I can at least interact and start making friends. And that's what the topic of this episode is about. So before we jump into today's subject and kind of segue into it, as always, please, if you haven't already, please follow your girl on all social media platforms. That is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My handle is Shameless Listo on all the platforms. That is ShamelessLizto. Please come and chat with me. Come talk to me. Let me know what you thought about today's episode. Let me know what you think of any episode, especially on Instagram. I am very active on Instagram. I'm trying to be more active on Twitter. But yes, reach out to me. And on Instagram, I post a lot of updates on things that I'm doing. As a matter of fact, I just created a playlist. I lied. I said I really didn't do much in Sorin's life, but I made a playlist. The playlist is available right now on Apple. By the time this podcast comes out, it should also be available on Spotify. The playlist is called Passport Ready. It is a playlist that's going to take you around the world. Basically, it's introducing you to all of my favorite music that'll make you do what I love to do, and that's dance. So I wanted to put together pretty much a list of all of my favorite songs from around the world and make you feel like you getting your passport stamps. Check it out. I will make sure I attach the links in the episode notes, or you can head over to my social media pages, and the links will be in my link tree. Okay, so make sure you go and add that playlist, get you some music from around the world, and get you some passport stamps. Okay. All right. So now let's jump into today's episode. Again, we're going to go with the title Friends, the Other Soulmate. As I've already told you guys before, living overseas, it's been pretty difficult to try to make friends. Obviously, COVID made it that much harder because everyone was on lockdown, everyone's wearing masks, everyone's kind of just in their own bubble, being safe, essentially. So not only were we operating with physical restrictions, but I feel like we had our own mental restrictions and our own mental shutdowns, emotional shutdowns. Because the reality is, as much as we live in a world that tries to say, oh, I don't need nobody, I'm good by myself, that's not how we were created. We weren't created to do life on our own. I know we have the expression, I can do bad all by myself, but even our ancestors created villages, essentially saying that we need one another, we need people. And I know in the year of 2022, we've kind of strayed away from that. The truth is that we need people. You may not need a lot of people. You may not need like 8 or 9 people, but 3, 4 solid people, shoot, even 2 or 3 solid people. You need a tribe. You need a village of people that keep you grounded, that keep you solid, that you can turn to, who will tell you the truth, who will check you and kind of say like, hey, what's going on? Like, are you good? You don't seem like yourself. That's why, like, for me, I can't really subscribe to how people do friendships these days. Friendships these days seem like very surface level, very, okay, yeah, like the brunches are cute, the girls' trips are cute, but can I call you when I'm on the verge of having a nervous breakdown? Can I call you when I feel like all hope is lost? Can I call you when I got $1 to my name and I need something to eat? These are the people that I want to call friends, that when I'm at my highest, you're there, and when I'm at my lowest, you are there. And I feel like we've kind of strayed away from having those types of friendships. And obviously, I want to make it clear, what I'm saying is not a universal thing. I know it's all about the vetting process and making sure you properly vet out the people who you let within your inner circle and who you let within your life. But I just feel like we've just kind of strayed away from like what the definition of friendship means. And so for me, that's why I said I wanted to kind of break it down between 2 episodes. One of, for me, what my interaction with friends over the years have been, as well as, like I said, since COVID and being in Korea, what my journey in trying to make friends has looked like so far. And I think for me, a valuable lesson or a valuable way I looked at friendship is, ironically enough, a quote from Tyler Perry movie or play from Medea, which, funny enough, back in college, that was my nickname. I used to be part of a step team and my step name was Medea. So it's kind of a funny joke. But I remember watching one of the plays. I don't remember which one it was because it was so long ago. They made a reference that people are like trees that come into your life. Some are like leaves, some are like branches, and some are the roots in your life. And if you've never heard the reference before, I'll basically break it down. If you're looking at a tree, leaves blow to and fro whenever the wind comes through. And you have people, that's literally how they move. They're not here for a long time, they're here for a good time. If you're trying to go to the club, if you're trying to go to the bar, if you're trying to get turned up, they're here. But if you're going through shaky times, you're going through rocky times, they're gone. They're gone with the wind, literally. Don't expect them to really rock with you through anything of any substance. Then you have your branches, and those are the people that you feel like you can depend on, and they are, because you have some sturdy branches. But it's like if you step out on them too far, they break. I think that's where you kind of have to learn your boundaries and learn what kind of people you're dealing with. How far is too far with certain people? For me, I'm learning, even now here in Korea, there's some friends, the only thing you do with them is you go out to eat with them. You don't talk to them about family issues. You don't talk to them about your dreams and your aspirations, because they're not going to be able to see the vision the way you do. And then there's some people that they're just we go into the movies and we talk about Marvel type things, because anything outside of that, their head's not there. So you kind of have to gauge, because again, if you step too far out, that branch is going to break and down will come baby, cradle and all. Which, by the way, is such a terrible, terrible lullaby. Why would y'all sing that to y'all kids? Down will come baby. Anyways, I'm sorry, but you get the picture. The fact of the matter is, you just got to keep people in certain lanes, because if you take them outside of their lane and you step out too far on them, they're not going to be able to come through for you. Then you have your roots. Your roots are essentially the people who are down for you. I don't want to use ride or die, because I've said before, I'm not riding and dying for anybody. I got questions. Who gonna be there? What time we getting there? What time we leaving? Is there gonna be food? What kind of food is it? Who cooked the food? You know what I mean? I got questions. And those are the people you need in your life in the first place. You need the people in your life who, if you say, this is the vision that I have, this is the dream that I have, and they ask you questions. And the thing is, you got people who, when you ask questions about your dreams, you have some people that, oh, y'all trying to be haters. You don't believe in me. You don't support me. Not necessarily. Just because someone asks you questions about your dream doesn't necessarily mean they're a hater. They just want to make sure you're not biting off more than you can chew. Because how many times have we come up with a big lavish dream and then we realize, like, okay, it's not feasible, or it's not financially, you can't do it right now. Or, okay, this is a good dream, but maybe I need to just put it on pause till like 4 or 5 years from now. You need people in your corner who's just going to make you sit down and think about it. And what I love is I watch Kev on Stage and Melissa Fredericks. They had a podcast called The Love Hour. And one of the analogies that Melissa Fredericks used is the kite and string analogy. Because Kev on Stage is the dreamer, he's the kite. And because she's more like the logistical person, she's more logical and reasonable, she's the string. Essentially, yes, he can have all these big dreams and big ideas, and he's ready to run with it. She's the string. She's learned over the years in being married to him, and this still applies even with friendships. You can give a little slack with the string and allow the kite to fly. You being the one who's holding the kite, you're guiding the weather. You're like, okay, if I let the kite go too far, it's going to fly off. If I let the kite go too low, it's going to hit the ground or fall into a tree. So you need to make sure that you're letting just enough string go up so that the kite flies up, catches enough wind, does what it needs to do. And I feel like as the people who are your roots, it's the same equivalent of the people who are the string to your kite. And there's always, the dynamic of some people are kites, some people are strings. You're not going to be in a friendship group where everybody's a kite or everybody's a string. There's going to be a mix and match. some people being different ones. And I think that's the beauty of friendships. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to, have their own business or travel the world. And that's okay. I feel like sometimes, like, especially now, we see so many people on social media, everybody's starting a business. Okay, congratulations, but where's the income? Where's the streams of income coming in? Again, if you were to say that to somebody, they're going to be like, oh, you a hater. No, I just want to see you win. You having the keys to a building is a great first step. But when you sell your first product, or you have a steady amount of income coming in from selling products, then we can start saying like, okay, you're an entrepreneur. Because how many times have we seen people say they're an entrepreneur, but then they're back at their 9 to 5 again? Exactly. So the fact of the matter is, the roots are the people who keep you grounded. They're the strings to make sure you don't get so, for lack of better words, big-headed that you don't think straight. So that's kind of where I've learned over the years how to approach my friendships. Obviously, I'm saying that now in my big age, but this wasn't something that I knew in my teenage years, let alone in my 20s, because God knows, I wish I knew that now, but hindsight is 2020. That's all I can say. I think for me, over the years, I've just had my share of people who were leaves, my share of people who were branches, and people who I thought were roots. And that's not even to say that's a negative thing. You can have people who are roots in that season. In that point of your life, they were supposed to be the roots that you needed so you can be grounded until it was time for the next season of your life. The same way that seasons change, we have fall, spring, summer, winter. Leaves die and then they come back. Branches sometimes they break off, but then they grow again. Usually sometimes you have some roots that are rotted, but then new roots grow again. There's just lots of changes that happen when it comes to trees. And I think the same thing applies when it comes to friendships. And I know I've kind of went around the mulberry bush, but essentially, like, that's kind of what I want to talk about with this episode and this next episode. Is just like, essentially for me, my track record when it comes to my friendships and the lessons that I've learned, but then also, like I said, my entire process with me applying what I've learned then to trying to make friendships now, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And that's why I've made it my mission to try and find friends first before I go out here and try and find a man. Yes, those two things can happen at the same time. But for me, friendships have become so important because, yes, finding my husband to be is my heart's desire. But the reality is, finding my friends, finding my tribe is equally important to me, because those are the people who will be with me. Like I said, they'll be with me on the mountaintop and they'll be with me when I'm in the valley. And I think, like I said, unfortunately, we kind of live in this time period where, oh, I'm going to do bad all by myself, no new friends, I'm good on my own type of thing. And like I said, we weren't created to do this thing called life by ourselves. That wasn't our design. That wasn't in our nature. Even if you don't believe in God, if you look at our ancestors, they were in villages. It takes a village to raise a child. There were communities. We didn't do life by ourselves. So how is it you expect to do life now by yourself? You need people, even if it's just one. You need one solid friend. But child, I know for me, trying to make friends, even as a young age, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I've told y'all time and time again, I'm Haitian. What are friends? Going to school? My parents used to say all the time, "Mpa voye pou fè zanmi nan l'école." I didn't send you to school to make friends. Sak zanmi. What are friends? My parents didn't send me to school to make friends. I was sent to school to get an education, and you better bring good grades here. And if you bring bad grades, it's because you out there trying to make friends. Do you know, since I was a kid, every single report card that I brought back was that I was a great student, but I talked too much? Look at me now. Every single report card that I had said that I was an amazing student, that I was so smart, bright beyond my years, but I talked too much. Why? Because I was out here trying to make friends. And my parents clearly told me, we didn't send you to school to make no friends. So you see the dilemma? You see my problem? You have a talkative child, but I'm not allowed to make friends. How'd that work? So, and again, I told y'all, I couldn't go to school dances. I couldn't do sleepovers. I couldn't do everyday activities. So how was your girl going to make friends? How? I remember, in school, my friends would come up to me, oh, we're going to go bowling, this, that, and the third. Bowling? Bowling? It's a no. You didn't even ask your parents. I don't have to. It takes 3 to 5 business days to even ask my parents anything. You want to go bowling on a Friday night? Today is Wednesday. It's a no. It's not happening. It's not happening. So just imagine my pivotal years as a kid in middle school and high school. And I'm trying to make friends. Like, don't get me wrong. I wasn't a loner. I was a very sociable person. But it's just like, it was very difficult to make friends outside of school. In school, like I said, I talked too much. So I was a very sociable person. I had, and I was friends with everybody. There really wasn't anyone that I wasn't friends with. I was friends with the nerds. I was friends with the emo kids. I was friends with the popular kids. Well, almost the popular kids. Not all of them. Because some of them, I didn't like them and they didn't like me. And that was fine by me. But for the most part, I was pretty much friends with everybody. I was cool with everybody. There really wasn't anyone that I could simply say like, okay, I wasn't cool with them unless they legitimately didn't like me. And that was the kids who bullied me and made fun of me. But outside of that, I was cool with everybody. But because of how my household was, I had a hard time making friends. But the kids that I did make friends with and that I had a extended friendship with, we lived pretty close to each other. But even then, I remember I would ask my parents to go hang out with them and they would say, oh, I don't know their parents. And I'd be like, Mom, Dad, I've been friends with them for 5 years. Oh, I don't know their parents. Do you know how frustrating that is? And they would know their parents. Their parents would come over and drop them off at our house. Their parents would greet my parents. And especially my dad, I swear my dad has amnesia or short-term memory loss. I don't know what it is. I don't wish it on him, but I know he's got one of them. Because their parents would come, drop them off at my house, greet my father. And then a week later, I would say, Dad, can I go to this person's house? The same person. Oh, I don't know their parents. What? Bruh, just tell me you hate me. Just tell me you hate me and you refuse to give me a childhood. Just tell me that. Just say that. I would much rather accept that from you, that you hate me and you don't want me to have any type of childhood. Parce que, m'pas comprendre. I'd be okay with that. I would be okay with that. So that was like the running theme in my house, was having to constantly reconfirm who my friends were. My mom, she knew like I hung out with the same three people pretty much, especially like come high school. I hung out with the same 3 people over and over. So it wasn't a problem for her. So that was kind of like my friendship dynamic. But when you get to college, a lot of people try to maintain the same friendship dynamics they had in high school that they had in college. And I think for me, I always go into my friendships thinking like, this is my forever friends. I'm never the type of person that goes into a friendship thinking this is temporary. This is a 1-year friendship, 2-year friendship. I walk into all of my friendships thinking we're going to be friends forever. Our kids are going to play together. We're going to grow old together. And maybe that's my downfall. But I also say that because I'm not the type of person that's friends with everybody. I think part of the reason is my childhood, because I wasn't allowed to be friends with everybody. But I think the other half is naturally, even though I'm sociable with everybody, I don't let everyone in. So if I actually call you my friend, in my mind, like I said, we're going to grow old together. Our kids are going to be friends together. You're going to be there at my wedding. You're going to be my bridesmaid, like that kind of image in my mind type of situation. So when there's a friendship breakup, it devastates me. Nobody talks about how devastating friendship breakups are. Friendship breakups are the worst. They only talk about when you break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. When in reality, when you break up with your boyfriend and your girlfriend, you go to your friends to talk about it and get healing, and they console you. But what do you do when you don't have that anymore? And again, for some people, if they're natural loners, this maybe to you're like, oh, this doesn't bother me, this doesn't affect me. Again, I can't tell you go out there and make friends, and that's not the point of this podcast or episode. It's just, again, the reality of, I don't want you thinking you don't need nobody, because we all need somebody. It's just that I don't think people talk about how painful friendship breakups are. You spend most of your day with this particular person, talking to them, being with them, especially if you're like middle school, high school. You spend most of your time with them, you're chatting, you're doing whatever it is with them. They're an intricate part of your life. And then one day they're not. That's hard. And I think that's a lot harder than breaking up with your boyfriend or girlfriend. I think for me, whenever I've had to go my separate ways with friends, it's been difficult for me because I've always been painted to be the villain and the bad guy. And that's not to say in some sympathetic way, like, oh, you've been painted. Like, no, I've always been a straight shooter. I've always been the type of person, I just bluntly say what I want to say. And I used to have the mentality like, oh, I just say what I want to say, and you're just going to take it how. If your feelings get hurt, that's on you, not on me. And I realize now that's harmful. You can't just say whatever it is you want to say and not think somebody going to punch you in the mouth. Luckily for me, I'm good with my hands. But the reality is I had a very harmful trait of just saying whatever I wanted to say, and you just had to take it. If your feelings got hurt, oh well, that's on you, not on me. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the reason for all of the friendship breakups that I had, but when you're someone who shoots straight and doesn't necessarily sugarcoat things, for me, that's always been the problem and the reason why people found it easier to paint me as the villain, I should say. Because of the fact that I'm very honest and a bit too honest, and I would shoot straight, too straight if I'm being transparent, it was easier to put the blame on me when it came to certain situations and certain issues or problems. And, I've recognized that being too honest, being blunt, is not necessarily the way to go. There's a way to tell the truth and it not cause harm to the other party. And unfortunately, you only learn that lesson as you get older and with time. And of course, when you're a teenager, you don't have that wisdom. You don't have that knowledge. Even though I was considered pretty wise beyond my years, I still didn't have that knowledge of, you can't just say whatever you want to people and think there's not going to be consequences. And that's, essentially what happened with certain friendships that I've experienced over the years. Even thinking about college, as I've explained in my dating episode, college was the first time I experienced freedom, and I wanted to explore that to the full extent. I think in me wanting to explore that to the full extent, I essentially left some friendships behind, and it was really intentional. I think for me, growing up in a Christian home where I was pretty much restricted from doing a lot of things, and I grew up as being the second mom in the household and not having a say-so, by the time I got to college, I ran wild. And even at a Christian university, that still had its own restrictions. I had more freedom than I had in my home. I remember when it came to, for example, my friends in high school, they were upset that I didn't come home often. And because for them, they thought, oh, I'd come home often and we'd hang out and spend time. The thing is, I didn't want to come home. For them, they saw me coming home as a time to be with them and spend time, and we could all be reunited, because that's what college kids do. College kids, they go to college during the semester, and then you go home and you be with your old high school friends all over again. For me, that's not the mentality that I had. Going away to college meant I was away, I was free. Going home meant, for lack of better words, going back to prison. And I didn't want to do that. So I stayed away from home as much as possible. And even when I went home for summer, I really couldn't enjoy my summer breaks because I was back to living the life that I had. I didn't really mention this in the living my life as I'm Haitian, the bad, but the bad is that, like, because you're essentially a second mom, or for me, like, I carry so many responsibilities, I can't be a kid. That conflicted with my friendship. I don't think my friends ever really understood that, because they weren't immigrants like me. So they didn't understand that I am not like y'all. I can't just come and go as I please. And I think for them, they thought that in college, all of the restrictions that I had in high school of sneaking around to go to dances and, having to clean the house before I could go hang out and play and doing all of that, I think that in their mind, they thought, once she's in college, all of that will go away. And that's not the case. So when I came home and I fell right back into the routine and I barely saw them, they became angry with me that we didn't spend time together. And that's why I say some people are roots within certain seasons, because in high school and middle school, they were my roots. They kind of gave me that breath of fresh air when I didn't want to deal with all the stuff going around at home. In college, now it's like a tug of war with them, because they're not understanding why we're not meshing the way we used to in high school. And obviously, college life, college changes you. But there's that dynamic. Like I said, I'm experiencing a level of freedom that they've had for years. They've had all their life. I never had that. I've never had this. I've never experienced this. And again, I still went to a Christian university. I have a curfew. We have dress code. We have all of these things. But it's still nothing in comparison to what I had at home. I thought my friends understood that. But I realized that when I came home and I was met with anger and frustration and misunderstandings as to why, like, I wasn't spending time with them and I wasn't excited to come home to reunite with them. Again, hindsight is 2020. I could have communicated that to them and saying, like, I don't come home because I don't want to be at home. I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. But again, I'm still pretty young at this age. I'm like, what, 18, 19, 20? I don't have the healthy vocabulary to express what I'm feeling. I just know your girl is free and she's running with that freedom. It's also why I was in Virginia for 10 years. I left Jersey and I didn't want to look back. I mean, that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. But like I said, I thought they would have been the ones to understand the most, because they got front row seats to a lot of the experience that I had. But I realized it's one thing to see it, but it's another thing to experience it. I realized, like, they were never going to understand my life as an immigrant child, even as at that time, like, my closest friends, my best friends at that time. So that's kind of like that experience that I had as like my first real best friends. That was kind of like my first experience, is that we were a solid group through middle school, through high school. But then, like I said, once we kind of all went our separate ways for college, I know for me, I kind of just went my own separate way, because I just wanted to spread my wings because I couldn't before. Yeah, I was selfish in the sense that I didn't care about anybody else, but I knew I needed to do it for me. And I know sometimes like we're talking about friendships, but there are times that you do need to be selfish to make certain moves on your own to shift you into a different lane. Because in shifting, obviously, I made new friends in college. Even that was still a journey in itself because I met people and some people were leaves and they blew wherever the wind blew. I met some people I thought were completely solid and they ended up being a branch. I recognized that we didn't not necessarily value the same things, but we just didn't have the same interests. You know, I met people from all over the world in college, and I just met some people who, for example, I was never into clothes back then. Cause I told y'all, my parents were buying clothes from the flea market and pay less in these regular degular stores. I didn't know what true religion was. I got introduced to true religion in college. I didn't know what true religion was. I didn't know what these fancy name brand clothes were until I got to college. I just remember like I was cool with a group of friends in college. I just remember a day where we were talking about just like random things, and all of a sudden they started talking about like name brand clothing, and they were talking about like True Religion and these other name brands. And I just immediately knew like, okay, this wasn't going to be a conversation I could be a part of. It's one thing like, okay, I can't be a part of this conversation. Cool. I'll wait for the next conversation to jump into. But then it became like a continuous conversation every single time we got together about what brand of jeans do you have? Oh, I have these jeans and I have these jeans. That wasn't my style. I wasn't a materialistic girl, or I didn't have like name brand clothes. That just wasn't me. And again, I didn't have the healthy verbiage to communicate that. And I have two operating systems. I either pull back and all of a sudden you notice that I'm just withdrawn completely, or I just give it to you straight and just tell you, yo, I feel like you X, Y, and Z, and then keep it moving. And I did the first, and I kind of just withdrew from them and just kind of exit stage left. And unfortunately, you know, again, that's not necessarily a healthy way to leave a friendship. But again, I just didn't really know how to navigate. I didn't have any, outside of the friends that I made in high school, this was kind of like a new element for me. I didn't really know how else to handle it. I was just like, look, I don't do name brand stuff. I never owned name brand, never had any. So I'm out. It became a problem because I was part of like a ministry team in college, and they used to do these I don't even know what you want to call them, coming to Jesus meetings. Used to have these coming to Jesus meetings where it was like the step team, the dance team, there was like a mime team, there was just different ministries. We would all come together and we'd have like a coming to Jesus meeting, and essentially like you were supposed to speak your piece is what it was. And this is why I say like I took on like that villain trope, because I remember going to this meeting and it always happened like right before the semester ended. I remember that. It always happened right before the semester ended and we were going to go on like a long break. And the whole purpose of the meetings was so that everyone could essentially get off their chest if they felt like their brother or sister wronged them. I remember my name coming up so many times. You did this and you said this to me and you said that to me. You made me feel like this and you made me feel like that. And I'm sitting there and I was like, dang. And I've been walking around here like happy-go-lucky. Not even being funny. I've been walking around here boo-boo the fool, clueless that these people feel some type of way towards me because I never knew. I didn't know. I had no idea that there were people who felt wronged by me because of something I said. Because again, like I told y'all, I would just shoot straight. If I didn't like something, I said it. If somebody made me feel some type of way, I said it. Like, I didn't hold back. I just be like, yo, I don't like how you said this because it made me feel like this, that, and the third. And then I kept it moving. I just was very blunt about everything. And I wasn't apologetic about it. And so when everybody's coming to me saying, oh, I didn't like how you made me feel like this, and this, that, and the third, I'm like, dang, what's going on? And my response was the same every single time. I was like, if you felt like I offended you, tell me right then and there. Because the problem was, I didn't remember any of it. Like, I remember, like, one person was like, oh, you made me feel like this when we did. And I was like, I don't remember that. Someone else would come in. I was like, I don't remember that. Like, it was so many instances. I was like, I don't remember any of this. Because me, I spitball whatever I feel, and then I keep it moving. So I'm like, if you felt like I said something that hurt your feelings, say something right then and there. Don't wait 2 weeks, 3 months, and then come to me and said, oh, you remember? I was like, me, I remember dates and times when I'm being petty. I will come to you and be like, you remember February 18th at 3:29 p.m. Like, I'll pull up a receipt then when I'm being petty. But if you come into me about something I said to you, I'm going to look at you and I'll be like, I have no recollection of anything that happened. Maybe I'm like my dad in that instance. Nah. But I don't remember. I have no recollection of any of it happening. So if you felt I wronged you in that moment, I tell everybody, please have a conversation with me at least within the first 24 hours. I understand some people, when they're mad, they're upset, they're angry, they need to take a step back, woosah a little bit, and then come back. That's cool. But don't wait 2 weeks and then come back to me and say, yo, you remember that time? What? I done had pancakes. I done had my breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3 times over, and you coming back to me with this? What? I don't remember. And now I feel like my apology isn't sincere because of the fact that I don't remember. I am apologizing for the simple fact that you feel hurt and wronged, but I'm not apologizing based on what I actually said because I have no recollection of it. I don't like that. I mean, I can't tell you when to come to me, but I'm just letting you know from my perspective. If somebody comes to me and says, oh, you said this, that, and the third to me, but if I can't remember it, when I apologize to you, it's a blanket apology. I apologize, I didn't mean it that way. I can't give you an authentic apology because I don't remember. So yeah, I didn't like that. And my ministry group used to do those often. They used to do those coming to Jesus meetings often. That was the one time I remember my name came up often. And I only had one person that turned around and said, I love the fact that she shoots straight and she's honest to this, that, and the third. But I just remember my name coming up so often. I was just like, am I the drama? Am I the villain? I just remember feeling like that. I don't even remember how I walked away feeling that day. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember how I felt. I just remember thinking like, dang, why has everybody got beef towards me? But yeah. So that's kind of just, unfortunately been a very difficult thing when it comes to me making friends. It's just that, like, I shoot straight. And for some people, that's not a good thing. But again, I recognize that that's not fair. There's a way to be honest and there's a way to be truthful without hurting people's feelings. And that's just something that I've had to deal with or work towards, I should say. Outside of the coming to Jesus moments, I will say that I've had some amazing friendships. Even though some friendships I thought, again, because I go into every friendship thinking they're forever, some friendships were devastating when they didn't last. I recognize that every friendship is a lesson. I actually met my best friend through college, me being the straight shooter that I am. Funny enough, I was interested in a guy, but I had seen him hanging around her often. And when he was trying to talk to me, he swore up and down he wasn't trying to talk to her. He wasn't dating her. But, men be lying. And so I didn't want to take his word for it. So I legitimately walked up to her because she and I were on the same ministry team, the same one that had to come in the Jesus meeting. And I pulled her to the side and I was like, yo, what's up with you and what's his name? Like, are y'all talking? Are y'all like interested in each other? Like, what's going on? She was like, what? Me and him? She's like, no. She's like, he's not even my type. She's like, we just friends. I was like, okay, cool, because I'm interested in him. And I just wanted to know, like, if y'all two were messing around or not. She was like, no, I'm not interested in him at all. I was like, okay, cool. And then maybe 3 weeks later, me and him broke up. And she and I have been friends for literally over 10 years. Like, that's my best friend. I love her to death. And so she is what I would consider my root, because we have been through, I think, funny enough, what God would do with our friendship is I would go into a storm that she was coming out of. And so she would be able to help me through it, or vice versa. I would be coming out of a storm, you know, in whatever seasonal storm that I was dealing with. She would go into it and she would come to me like, oh my God, I'm dealing with this, that, and the third. I'm like, girl, I just got out of that. It just always worked out that we could just uplift each other and pull each other through whatever mesh just came our way. And I think that's the first time like I understood what roots are. I think that's the first time I understood what a friendship soulmate look like, is in meeting my best friend. I didn't know it initially when I met her, but I think, you know, as time progressed, I realized, ooh, am I gonna get emotional? Oh my God. I realized in meeting her that I had found my friendship soulmate. I ended up finding others too, because I don't think you have like, just like in dating, I don't think you have just one soulmate. I feel like you find multiple people you connect with. But I think for her, meeting her, I recognize that there is such a thing as friend soulmate. It's crazy. Like, even we haven't seen each other in a long time, but I know if I go see her and we watch something that's funny, we will laugh and we have the same laugh. But I guarantee you, we're separate from each other. Our laughs are completely different. Like, I can laugh right now and I have my own laugh. She has her own laugh. But if we laugh at the same time, our laughs are the same. That is scary to me. That is absolutely scary to me. But I think in the lessons, in the way that she prays for me, in the way that she encourages me, in the way that she teaches me, I recognize that, ooh, yeah, I'm getting emotional. I recognize that friend soulmates are real. They're necessary. Like I said, even if it's just one, because if you have one solid person in your corner who will pray for you, who will encourage you, who will push you, who will support you, who will love on you when you don't love on yourself, that's what a friend soulmate looks like. Someone who speaks to the greatness in you. Someone who speaks to the depth of you. Even when you don't see your own value, they see that value. They see the worth. They see everything that you can't see. And it's a two-way street. What I love is that she and I could go a while without speaking. I can call her up and it's like no time has passed. Now, I'm usually the type of person that I like to keep constant communication. And even now, because of COVID, I'm trying to maintain a consistent conversation with her, because COVID has let me know that life is too short. But, you know, and like I said, she's not my only friend soulmate, because I've met other people who've pulled other pieces out of me and pulled other potential out of me, or greatness. I have 2 friends of mine even now, and I don't really call them friends, I call them my sisters, because that's what they are to me. They pull certain parts of me. They make me better in different ways. They make me want to be better, because they encourage me to pursue all the dreams and all the aspirations that I have. call them sisters because they have a way of seeing something in you and trying to pull it out of you. And I think that's, again, I'm going to harp on it again. We're not meant to do this thing called life by ourselves, because when you have a village, a tribe, a community, they will pull that, I won't say potential, because you have the potential to be great, you have the potential to just be stagnant, you have the potential to be whatever, but they will speak to the greatness in you. They'll speak to your spirit and call out those things so that they are so, or in other words, manifest those things. And I recognize that that's why friendships for me are important. And I think that's why I'm having such trouble here in Korea. Is not to say I'm trying to replicate my friends back home here, but I'm very careful about the type of friends I choose here, because I know that I have a specific purpose on my life and I can't be just linked with anybody. I'm not looking for any more leaves. If you're a branch, I just need to know how far I can step out, and then that's it. I just need to know where the boundary is. Cool. But I'm just looking for more people to not ground me, but who I can connect myself with so I can help you reach your purpose and you can help me reach my purpose. Because again, it's a two-way street. I'm not doing no more giving, because I've been down that road before. But I'm about pouring into your cup and you pouring into my cup. And again, that's something I learned from my best friend, is learning to pour of yourself constantly, but also receiving it back. I think that's what makes friendship so beautiful, and what makes things easier in a friendship, where you don't feel like you have to put on a facade and do so much, because you recognize that there's a hidden language that you both speak. It makes things that much easier, that you can be honest, you can be transparent, you can let your hair down, essentially. So that's kind of been, in a rough nutshell, my journey with friendships. I've had a lot more. I've had friendships that I've connected with in the church, and those have also been like my solid friend group. And I think because of those solid friendships, once I ended up moving back home to Jersey, I kind of fell into that stage of depression, because everything that I knew, I separated myself from my roots, essentially. And it was a difficult transition for me. But I knew that they were always behind me. Obviously, I'm not physically with them, but I knew that they were always with me no matter where I went. I think it just was a hard transition for me, leaving my circle behind. But that, like I said, overall is in a nutshell what my journey is like. Really, truly finding people in your life who speak to the true you, who speak to the authentic version of you, and who are not okay with you just being okay with how your life is. And I say that in the sense of, if you want more for your life, they're willing to push you to that more. And they refuse to let you be complacent with your life. Even when you start to doubt yourself, even when you start to think bad thoughts about yourself, they will say, no, that's not what we're doing here. That's not the game plan. Be gentle with yourself. Take a day off or so, but we getting back on the horse and we trucking it. That's not what we're doing. Find some friends who will uplift you, and even, like I said, they're gonna tell you the hard things, but they're not saying the hard things just to, pull you down or be a hater or be negative. They doing it out of love, because they want to see the best for you. They want you to be the best version of you. So yeah, like I said, this is basically my journey. I just said all that to say, sometimes we focus too much on finding the soulmate in a husband or a wife, But I think sometimes we need to really pay attention to the friends around us and figure out who the other soulmate is in terms of our friends. Who is encouraging us? Who's uplifting us? Who's there in our time of needs? Who's there for us when we're in our high place and in our low place? Essentially, who's the string to our kite? Who's the root to our tree? I think these are the questions we can ask ourselves, because regardless of what society tells us, life is already hard enough. Why do it alone? And so with that, I am going to end today's episode. So I thank you all for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, I ask that you please leave a review on Podchaser. I appreciate it. Leave not only your ratings, but also leave a review. It does a great deal for someone like me who is a small content creator. I greatly appreciate it. But also don't forget, follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The handle is Shameless Listo. That's ShamelessListzto. Make sure you hit me up. Tell me what you think about today's episode or any past episode, or just come talk to me. I'd love to just chat and find out who my listeners are. Don't forget, this is going to be the second to last episode. We have one more episode, and then I am wrapping up the season. Okay? So until next time, your girl is off her soapbox. See ya.